all right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Talking That Talk Official Podcast, where we have uncomfortable and comfortable conversations. I am your host, Juice, aka No Ordinary Brother.
What's good, everybody? Welcome back to your favorite show. I go by the name of King Exodus. Make sure you tap into that YouTube, follow us on IG. I'll let you open up.
All right. There's been a very interesting thing with good old Bishop Bryant out there in Atlanta. He said, hey guys, we're going to do a 40-day fast. My fault. A 40-day spiritual fast. I said, okay, I'm interested. I'm listening to it. And during that fast, he said, listen, we're going to boycott Target for 40 days. And it confused me because I said, what's spiritual about this? This has nothing to do with spirituality, And in the midst of listening to it, he was saying, listen, we got to do what we have to do for 40 days. If Targets, they hit it, they're trying to hit a goal. I mean, if they lose a goal of 29 million a day, we can get our products back in there. DEI was there to, protect the black individuals, especially there was a commitment y'all made after the incident of George Floyd. So I'm listening and I'm like, okay, cool. What does this have to do with the Bible? See, the main thing that kept going through my eyes is like, okay, listen, why are you just targeting Target? If you're going to boycott something, you need to do a bigger message, right? You know what I'm saying? And it takes more time for things to get done than what people think it is. Since the DI, black people are still shopping at Target. Let me just keep it honest with you. They're still shopping at Target because people don't want to shop at other stores like Walmart, because one of the things they always talk about that Target had over Walmart was the cleanliness. The fact that things might have been a little bit more higher price, but it was stocked. It's a different feeling shopping from Walmart than Target. And then after you got Walmart and Target, about Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, what I'm saying? It's a whole different feeling when it goes to that. But the main purpose of me, I was just mind blown that the fact it was called a 40-day fast, and it's just basically you not shopping at Target. My biggest problem with all that was, like I said, what does this have to do with religion? What does this have to do with you preaching out of the Bible? What did this have to do with, getting the message out there for your congregation, to uplift them and stuff? So they bought a website called targetfast.org. I said, oh, they really going to commit to this. You subscribe to this website and it sends you over 300,000 black businesses. And I said, in my head, I'm like, yo, why is this not being utilized on a daily basis? Why is this only being utilized during this fast? Does other people know about this? Like, how big have you been preaching about the organization that has over 300,000 black businesses that people can go to? I was like, trying to target one national chain is not going to do something. Now, let me get back to the comment about George Floyd. Did y'all forget during the Black Lives Matter, during the march of George Floyd, Target was being targeted? Every city, every state, they was vandalizing. They were stealing out of it. So if I'm in a certain position, CEO, chairman, whatever executive status, if somebody is destroying my property, and it's happening every march, every different city, every different wave that goes on, what do you eventually do? What they say, you lay down, or you get down, or you lay down. Eventually, I don't mind complying because I have to look after my change of store. How much is it going to cost for the rebuild, the insurance, all that you have to take in consideration. But DEI wasn't part of Target until then. So when it got taken away, I wasn't really shocked. I just looked at it like, okay, it is what it is. But that was my main thing when it came to that. I said, yo, what does this have to do with anything other than everybody's freaking out over the DEI thing? Like I said, if we go back to it, Target was never part of the DEI until that situation happened. And let's say if that march never happened, Target never got targeted, I don't think anybody would be talking about Target. I can't tell you how many videos I've seen over people making marketing videos talking about how much they love shopping at Target. Do y'all forget there's also black brands at Target right now that will also be bankrupt and shut out if we stop shutting there? How much money they'll lose as well? We got to take things into consideration. Understand, if we stop certain things, look at the counter reaction of what we already have in place there. So that's all I got. I'll go into another time. This is good enough right
Uh, ah, all right.
there.
The
And in the midst of listening to it, he was, my bad. Yeah.
No, go ahead. Do you think? Go ahead.
No, that was my, it picked up. Here's my thing that picked up.
Alrighty. So DEI, for those that don't know, 76% of DEI is accredited to whites in America. The bigger population out of that would be white women. So the number one benefactor of DEI is white women. 76% goes to white people. And it trickles down. You know, you have white, Latinos, Asian Americans, veterans, trickles down to the LGBTQ community, and last, blacks. Now, blacks only make up 4% of the DEI, right? So if you're going to base a revolutionary type movement, right, against the system, DEI is not what you kind of want to go against. Because DEI is already against you. If only 4% of your race makes up the percentage of where these allocations go of quote unquote equality, then you can, it's safe to say. So this is how my brain works when I explain this to people. Every time now I hear DEI, I hear white. That's how I train my brain. If 76% of it goes to white people, that's how I train my brain. So when I hear DEI, I think, oh, white. So when Trump say diversity, DEI, this is the cause, I hear white. You know what I'm saying? So my emotional response is not triggered the same way yours is, because when we look at the mathematics of it, DEI doesn't have anything to do with us. Just because you're the face of something does not mean you're actually the benefactor of it. And now we have to rewire your brains, because I think somewhere you're lost to where you think that just because you're the face, you know, when you study, let's say you want to change your health, you know what I'm saying? A great teacher will tell you that the front is, that's the sexy part. That's what draws you in. But the back of that product, when you get the nutritional facts, that's the educational part. That's what most people don't read. They only see the front of the product, not the back where you have all the facts. You know what I mean? So that's what we got to train our brains on. So when I hear that shit, I don't get, you know, so if you want to boycott the system, quote unquote, you can't go after the DEI type of thing, because that's not what particularly caters to your race, demographically speaking, right? So we just have to be more strategic. And I've said this in the past, if you want to be anti-Trump, anti-DEI, or whatever, you have to come up with a better formula in order to go against the system, if that makes sense. Because when the type of person I am, if I go against the system, I go against the entire system, which means I don't celebrate holidays. I don't deal with certain religions. I don't deal with certain foods. I take it to that extreme, because, you know, even in my lower nature, if we got ops, we got ops. and none of those ops are safe. That's the mentality that you have to translate behind information and facts. You know what I'm saying? So if you're going to fight a system, let's study how does the system actually work. What's the core of the system? What's the fundamental basics of the system? And that's how you challenge a system. You don't just do it at face value, because now you're wasting time. You know what I'm saying? So I think this whole thing is somebody that's trying to fight a system and they wasting time. And you can't fight a system and you still represent a part of the system. This, once again, I'm not trying to attack nobody's religious or personal beliefs, but when we dive deep into these practices, we find out that the same systems you want to fight against when it comes to DEI are the same systems that gave you the religions at the same time. So if you want complete separation and complete sovereignty, you got to go all the way. You know what I'm saying? Your catalyst, like when we talk about Nat Turner used the Bible to do what he did. But that's what he used in his time period. It's 2025. You don't have to use the same tools that Nat Turner used in his day. Eventually, we're gonna even have to upgrade our armor. Your armor is your knowledge.
Tutelage.
What do you know? You know what I'm saying? And I always talk about the economy and a lot of intro topics and stock market because that's a big catalyst towards your freedom. Um, which gives me another intro topic. Um, President Trump is on this whole tariff craze, and everybody going crazy, and they're like, "Oh, that's the most psychotic shit." Right. So when we study tariffs, we find out that a big majority of how America evolved was through tariffs prior to taxing the citizens on like income tax and whatnot. So that's key. So it's either you get it from the citizens through income tax or you get it through tariffs, right? So we were a nation that were heavy on tariffs primarily. So the two countries that made the most static within the recent time period was Canada and Mexico. The day that we were supposed to implement the tariffs on Mexico, Trump met with the Mexican president and they came to a truce for a month. And part of that truce was the Mexican president agreed to send, 10,000
10,000.
troops to the border. Because, see, when you hear tariffs, you think, oh, he's just going crazy on products and it's a trade war. No, the beef between America, Canada, and Mexico is based on fentanyl. So it's a drug war. So Trump is pretty much saying, if y'all are the biggest reasons that fentanyl crosses American border. So now I'm gonna put tariffs on y'all because y'all are not controlling y'all criminals, right? And somehow systematically that criminal activity is feeding your economy. So if I can't tax the drug itself, I'm gonna tax the economy. You gotta think, and if we study everything throughout history, America went at who? Pablo. That was Colombia, right? America probably morally didn't care that drugs was coming into America. It was just the fact that something was coming into America, benefiting another nation, and America didn't seek any profit from it. So
There you
if
go.
I can't profit from it, then now I got to wipe it out. Same thing happened with alcohol and prohibition. Do your research on history.
Mm-hmm.
America wants its taxes on anything that's sold in America. We got to eat. If you're going to sell it, if we look at the whole like crack cocaine era and the war, you know, in exchange for weapons, cocaine was coming into the border and all that. What happened? They was cool with that because they made money off the exchange, cocaine, guns. Now, what was not expected was the crack cocaine epidemic, and now this spiraled into what we call the CCA, the prison industry and complex or what have you. So prior to that, America was funded off of oil, right? The American dollar became the worldwide currency behind oil. It was back behind oil, right? So if you traded oil world over, you had to trade it in American currency.
Mm-hmm.
Now we step into the cocaine era, crack cocaine. Now we get into the prison industry. So besides oil and the prison industry, what has America produced to actually back the dollar? Because it's not backed by gold anymore. And now that opens the door back to what I said, tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If we don't talk about that, then we can implement tech, and that'll be another conversation. But besides that, America gave away its industrial complex to other nations. So nothing is being produced to back the American dollar in America besides tech maybe. And then that's compromised because we have the whole deep sea thing with China and what have you. So we just have the major tech companies in America. But they getting their ass kicked due to the ops, you know what I'm saying, which will be China. So to double it all back, tariffs are necessary in the equation because America is always finding a way to have the American dollar backed by something that's powerful. So now we talk about tariffs. Canada also caved in. They said not only will we send thousands of troops to the border, but we're going to come off a billion. I think it was like 1.59 to be exact.
Israel. It's like 1 billion, it's like something like that. We know it's a one. We know
Right.
it's one.
So that quick, president coughed up $1 billion out of Canada, got 20,000 troops at the border, and it was all a game of chicken. Like sometimes, and this ties into the episode, masculine and male influence. The more masculine approach, sometimes you play chicken. I gotta pull. I gotta see what I can get out of this deal. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes I have to take the leverage that I have and I gotta stand on something. Now, your followers may not always understand that play, and that's cool. But what happened? Before everything hit the fan, people came to the table and said, okay, good. You're serious.
You
All right. So
serious,
let me
right?
give you let's talk about it.
let's talk about it. Let's
Let's
talk
talk about
about
it. So,
it.
it wasn't a good thing with China. China backdoored and was like, okay, bet you hit us with 25, I'm gonna hit y'all with 15%. That's cool, but we don't even know how long that's gonna last. Because that's the biggest import and export relationship on the planet, America and China. So, you know what I mean? So, but anyway, I just wanted to let that be my opening. This whole tariff thing, don't look at what the media is saying. Oh, he's crazy. He's going out of control. It's a method behind madness. If you're masculine and you come into a negotiation table, sometimes you got to come to that table hardcore. I don't give a fuck. Left or right, it can go down. And sometimes your ops is like, I hear you, but I don't hear you. All right, bet. You don't hear me. When they come to that day and it's time to press that button, your ops is like, all right, bro. All right, bro. I see you got on your black forces. Let's talk about it. Your ops is gonna try to get you from black forces to white forces. That's the whole black shoes to white shoes. That's how it works. So, if you don't have another intro, I got another one to follow up on that.
Man, I just want to do this real quick, man. You got me feeling like Cameron and Max, where you like, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about right there. Just you gotta educate people sometimes, man. But hopefully it helps, but if it don't help, hey, so be it. Go ahead, keep going, man.
All right, so one thing that Trump said was interesting. I watched him sign some more orders. He talked about an energy crisis. This is very, very critical, especially in Texas, because every time the weather gets complicated out here, our power get turned off, and we got our own theories on that and conspiracies and whatnot. But Texas has its own grid outside of the American grid. But yeah, he said something that was critical and key. There's an energy shortage in America. And now you have companies treating it like a gold rush type of thing, to where companies are trying to find ways to produce energy outside of the energy grid, which will go to natural resources. Like he said in his inauguration speech that a lot of y'all didn't watch because y'all so democratic. He said, drill, baby, drill. Why? Because we have to produce more energy sources, and America is the biggest producer of oil in the entire world, if you didn't know that. The Saudis have the biggest reserves for oil, but we produce the most oil. All right, y'all can tap into that later. So, with there being an energy crisis, like I said, I'm big on stocks. Um, pick your investments and pick how you base everything on how you move strategically based on the economy and what's going on in the world. America just said, yo, we got an energy crisis. We need more resources of energy to produce power. What's the biggest thing going on? Open AI. Everybody's fighting over open AI. What does open AI need? Tech and everything else? Data centers. Data centers require a lot of energy. So the whole push is for companies to be able to produce data centers for like Microsoft, the big companies, and it does not affect the grid for the consumer. And this goes back to politics because Kamala, whatever you want to say, her biggest thing is let's not produce more energy, but let's put taxes on energy, which would affect the consumer. You're paying your light bill, maybe your light bill would increase. Who knows? So that was critical for me. So when we had these type of conversations, you have to find out, remove yourself emotionally, and then fully engage as a person that's being affected and a person that's trying to increase your wealth. So if I want to increase my wealth, knowing that there's an energy crisis, When there's a drought, you make more money. You learned that from the streets. So you probably would want to invest into companies that produce energy, natural sources of energy outside of the power grid. You know what I mean? And that's what's going on. If it's a gold rush, you don't want to necessarily dig for gold. You want to sell shovels. You make the most profit off of shovels because everybody's digging for gold.
But
You can probably try to
everybody wants to
find
show.
you a couple of scraps of gold, but the biggest profit, everybody needs a
Hmm.
shovel. So in this open AI battle between China and the US and everybody, you want to study companies that produces or energy and the natural resource. Ties me back to another political topic to open Panama Canal. I did not know this. We talked about it on podcast, but I did not know that the U.S. built the Panama Canal,
Hmm.
and Panama eventually kind of seemed like they gave it up to China. So this whole push towards Trump wanting to take over the canal again. The further we get into the facts of a lot of moves that's being made within what uh, less than what, let's say 2 or 3 weeks of homie being in office, a lot of shit just starts to make sense on a different scale. So from playing chicken to the investor, you just need to tap into these things and see how you benefit personally, economically, and see how it feeds your family. But yeah, it's more open topics. You got something else, or I can take it on.
No, I didn't know how many topics you wanted to do. That's why.
Mhm.
Hold on.
All right, cool. One of the last opening topics, it's a little like we got the whole 50 Cent and Big Meech thing popping off. To not get too far in street politics, Meech came out of prison. He did business with Rick Ross. Rick Ross is an adversary to 50 Cent. 50 Cent clapped off on Meech. So now we have this whole spiral of events. I even seen something today where Lil Meech text 50 and 50 posted the text. And in the text, Meech was like, bro, this, pretty much, like this ain't got, I rock with you, you know what I'm saying? And 50 was like, pretty much like saying, like, it ain't no more BMF TV shows or nothing like that. So this is pure entertainment at this point. Um, uh, I don't really know what side to pick on this because I understand loyalty, and then I also understand like people like Rick Ross and everybody else was saying like the streets don't owe you no loyalty. Get your money with people and move on. That's true too. Um, I would just say in a good opening point, a big reason why I stepped outside of my past endeavors, and I've had conversations with people recently. I was like, yo, sometimes the streets just don't make sense. Loyalty and expectations and how people react to things just don't make sense. Um, 50 kind of pretty much put BMF on the map in a new light. Um,
Hmm. New light. That's the main thing. Give them a different image.
I would say me personally, I probably, if I was Meech and Terry, because Terry did the same thing, I probably wouldn't have did that play because dude, like I said, he shined a light on that name when it was pretty much dead. So loyalty is, everybody does not value loyalty the same way. And but what I do agree with is that people don't have these conversations in like person to person no more. They take it to the internet. Like I said, Lil Meech text 50, he blasted everything. So I would just say, like, if you having some type of misunderstanding with your people, based on whatever your standards are on loyalty, deal with them directly. Let's not go to the internet. I just say that. You know what I mean? It's a catchy situation, but like I said, the streets don't always make sense, but I'll say deal with people directly, and that'll be my last opening topic.
All right. I guess for my input over the situation. Look, as you said, 50 provided a lot of things. I remember one of Rick Ross' biggest songs was, I think, on Big Meech,
Like,
Larry Hoover.
mm,
So you got to look at sometimes people pay ties to people and feel like, all right, bro, you shouted me out. You probably put some money in my pocket. Let me sit down and talk with you. But at the same time, there's always a thin line between how you do business. if I ever, let's just say, if I ever was in a situation where I know my my loyalty is with somebody else individually, if I sit down and talk with the opposition, just know I ain't taking no pictures. I'm not doing none of that. We're here for a conversation.
Yeah,
That's it. I
yeah, I don't
think a
believe
lot of
that.
people don't understand the marketing behind it because I let's say me and X was on, let's say X had a op, and I sit down, talk with him, shake hands. That looks disloyal. But see, I could
Yeah.
be talking to him about something completely different that has nothing to do with their relationship. It could just be something on the basis of like business endeavors. Hey, look, what can we do to get some peace between y'all two? It could be whatever. But when you when there's something becomes captured, like they said, a picture is 1,000 words. It says a
Mm-hmm.
thousand. There's nothing you can do after that. It's nothing
Mm-hmm.
you can do after that.
Mm-hmm.
This is why sometimes people like to do meetings or put themselves in a situation where they say, "And listen, no cameras, no phones, no nothing. Listen, it's everything that happens here. It happens here.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is to become outside of it." So
Mm-hmm.
that's a situation outside. Like this is what we say, male and masculine role. Like it's certain things that being around the men I was groomed around, they understood. Like, listen, anything ever leaves this room, we know who did it. We
Mm-hmm.
know who did it. So it's no, you can't get around that. You can't get around that. But if you publicize everything and all the information's out there, information circulates. It's you want to have control.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. You want to have control
Mm-hmm.
over situations, scenarios. You don't want other people to have input. So, like I said, hey, I remember when Ross did that big shout out to Big Meech. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Big Meech, when I looked at it, like, you know what? Let me go sit down and talk to Ross. He did, gave me the because at one point in time, big BMF was so big, you had people just paying them money like to use their name just to give them a shout out. What's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for, bro? Pay tithes. Just pay tithes for no. Some people paying tithes for no reason.
Tariff. Tariff.
Tariffs. There you go. Tariffs. Paying tithes for no reason, bro. They just be paying it. Like, hey, listen, I'm gonna be in the city, man. Here's your money. Can you have some people? Listen, tax. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Tariffs, bro. Just leave it right there. It is what it is. It's literally what we're talking about. No reason, but
Mm-hmm.
that's just like like I said, that's the environment. Like I said, some of us is very familiar with. But it doesn't make sense at the same time. It's like paying homage. But what for? I'm not using anything that you have. But hey, that's just my input on there. Some people will look at it like, 50 Cent is marketing this. No, I don't believe he's marketing this at all. Once he sees a sign of disloyalty, that man will blast it to the end of the days. How do you come back from that? How do you come back from that? You can't. That has to be a sit down between them men. But like I said, hey, that's street politics. We discussed tariffs. We discussed some male and masculine energy that you have to understand. Like those are things that you have to have the input in. But yeah, that's all I got on
Mm-hmm.
the subject right there.
I'm ready
But
already.
huh?
Yeah, go ahead and introduce the topic.
Man,
We can
okay,
do that.
man. I didn't know what you said. You looked over to the side. But anyway, all right, ladies and gentlemen, topic of the night. It's called male and masculine role models. Why did I want to have a discussion about this? Majority of people do not understand there's a difference between a male and a masculine role model. See, your male role model is just a man. Technically, it's just a man. Hey, he's a man. Observe him, and he's going to teach you how to be a man. But see, at the same time, some of the men that they're learning from they're learning just the typical roles, and not necessarily all the time the roles. They're just observing him how he maneuvers and believes. Okay, if I'm him genetically, and I'm just a child version of him, then as an adult when I become him, this is all I have to do. See, your masculine models are the ones who put the type of energy in there that make you understand there's character, morals, and principles that come with it. So, one of the things that a lot of masculine models you can do, sometimes your coaches is your masculine model. But one of the best masculine models is, I could say, is let's say, your karate teacher, your boxing coach. Why? Because when you start having certain energy, when you start the program, you're learning about discipline, you're learning about commitment. When certain emotions start rising up inside you, they teach you how to control that type of stuff. See, your male role model can always teach you about the emotional things because you're more so observing what they're doing. You're not actually being able to see when your emotion arises, how they can control it, how they can help it. It's a separation of things. This is why when it's like, well, my son needs a male role model. I was like, well, what is he going to model? You have to be able to understand the man you're going to put in a position. If it's not his father, the next man, what is he going to be doing in that position? See, this is why one of the conversations we had before, I said, listen, if there's ever a time you want men to actually step up and help the community, you got to have some type of structure and discipline within your child already. That lets them know, hey, there has been a masculine figure or some type of structure already provided for that child to intake, to be able to take from another man and then magnify it or build upon it.
Mhm.
But if his role model was just based on his grandfather and his uncles and cousins, and even some of y'all don't even respect your own family members, but use them as role models for some odd reason. I don't fucking know. But hey, this is the type of
Yeah.
things that people have to go through. There's a separation between the male role model and the masculine model. Do you want the man that always just, how can you say, that goes along with it? Or do you need a man who actually puts his foot down? People want to ask for certain types of men to exist. I need a man to put his foot down. I need a man to correct me. I need a man. That's all masculine. But at the same time, even masculine men know, why would I get myself deeply involved into something if there's not even no structure and guidance within your own life? So you got to look at it certain things. So that's the subject on the land. Male versus masculine role model. What are we predominantly looking at during the majority of the time? I believe more men have male role models than masculine models. I'm gonna keep it honest.
Let go, let go. All right. So for a comment in the chat, uh, I actually have to think about this response, and it ties into it. So let's do this. MLK was an individual that grew up in a Republican household, but his biggest benefit came from the Democratic Party uh, through civil rights. So that would answer the question. Sometimes you have to do what you have to do in order to get your biggest benefit. And if the benefit of your purpose, whatever the purpose is behind why you're engaging, whether it's selfish or it's for your group, majority wise, your clan, your family, whatever, now you have to make decisions. Um, it doesn't have to necessarily be selfish. It could be on a more broad aspect. So it makes me think about Ice Cube when he came up with the platinum, not the platinum plan, but he came up with something that he wanted to produce, and he dished it off to the Democratic Party. They shut him out. So then they tried to uh, put it in front of the Republican Party, and they was like, okay, bet if we win, we got you. And people was like, oh, he's selling out, but he's so locked in on his purpose that his purpose is already defined morally and spiritually, right, based on who he is as an individual. That's key. So if you're masculine and you tap into your purpose, quote unquote, you've went through layers of research and developing how does this purpose tie into who you are as an individual. And if this ties into your individuality along with the conclusion of your community, whether that's your family, your political top, whatever that is, it ties back to your purpose because it doesn't just serve you; it serves everybody around you. What you
Mm-hmm.
represent. You know what I'm saying? So now, when you make deals, everybody got to eat based on that deal because you're not just thinking how do you benefit as an individual, but you're thinking how do you bring back everything from that deal back to the masses that you personally represent. So yeah, that ties back into the question. You want to feed the people that follow you. You want to feed the people that you represent, and you want to feed your purpose. If you can tie all that into like a group, then you locked in, you tapped in. Now you can move on a more masculine approach because Now it's all political. If we look at the families that produce the Federal Reserves and you know what I'm saying, all these type of scenarios, we talk about Illuminati, that's cap in the aspect, right? So the creatures of Jekyll Island, all this whole thing ties around a group of individuals that came together in masculine energy, right or wrong, or racist or not. Uh, the banks collapsed in America, and they said never again will we get to this type of low. So we have to make sure that the banks prosper. So as families, how do we come together and make sure that our families never starve? And that's masculine. Um, Personally, I'm good, but I want to make sure that the people that rely on me for support, energy, um, complete support, whatever. I want to make sure that everybody's straight. That's masculine. So when you get input from masculine people, that's the energy. How do we all eat? How do we all win? And that has to be the goal of every type of conversation. So the more, if we get into these circles of men and we talk about individuality, I now can link that to feminism, right? Because that's a different type of conversation. Like your individuality does not serve humanity. It does not serve your core group, what you belong to. Like at every point of a man's life, he feels like he belongs to something. It can be things he belonged to on his lower nature. It could be a gang, a clique, a set, a street, a hood, or whatever. And then when we begin to grow and advance our mentalities, it could be a religion, it could be a spiritual group, it could be a fraternity, it could be different things that that man will attach himself to, and he will find out that yo, I play a bigger role to society than just myself. So if we're going to take advice from masculine men, the advice has to attach to something bigger than just that man. Because if that man is selfish, now we can attach his selfishness to feminism, and that's feminine. If you're only looking at how can you advance, if we attach it to the streets, most dudes that will follow street law by that narrative would be feminine. If you're only worried about self. That's how that works. So we can't produce a masculine and male conversation around the streets because the streets doesn't produce to that narrative effectively. So the more masculine we get into the conversation, like if we look at a scale of what men run the country, like black men could be the most street, but they could be the poorest economically. Why? Because they don't attach to a culture, and that culture doesn't um, rise above all like economic values, and they don't excel. So if we look at, like, let's just say Middle Eastern or Indian men per se, you will see gas stations, cleaners, wash terriers. If you speak about the Asian man, you'll see all different type of businesses attached to his image. White man, businesses. But when we get back to the black man, it's like individuality, gang sets, clique streets. It's not a lot of wealth behind that. And if they integrate into bigger circles, then they sell out. But they're not selling out necessarily because they're understanding how the world works. So individual practices, needless to say, it doesn't feed anybody around you. So you have to,
Mm-hmm.
and then black people have these talks about Illuminati. Who are you sacrificing to get what you want? No, you have to start thinking about it in a different aspect. The fact that you're not sacrificing yourself, so to speak, not your life, not your pride, not what you stand on as principles and morals, but if you're not sacrificing individuality to
Mm-hmm.
get to the next level, what are you doing? How are you a king? How are you a god? How are you these titles that we like to attach to ourselves? So
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you do your thing.
Man. Yeah, let me go ahead and kick it off with something he said earlier. Males just exist, and masculine men have purpose. Let me keep it simple as that. Males just exist, masculine men have purpose. How many times are you around men that just sit there and just to be there? You know, they just there, but have a good time, really never contribute to shit, but they're just there. You know what I'm saying? And then you have the men around you that's always like, hey, listen, man, you know, I'm going back to school right now. I'm trying to build. Hey, listen, there's some things I'm trying to put in order, young man. Hey, listen, in the next year or two, I need you to do this, and then I can bring you in on. See, these are men who have ideas and value and placement on what they're trying to contribute to their own family or to their friends or people that could be beneficial for them. Most and people always wonder why I don't be out like that. I'm like, yo, what for? You know what I'm saying? I like to enjoy myself on my spare time, but I don't like to be around men who can't contribute to shit. Like I used to, like I had to tell a couple people every time we go out. I used to tell people, like, listen, when I went out with certain types of men, you contribute. I hate men that come out and be like, well, shit, you know, they pay for everything, they do everything. Hey, bro, you just here to exist. And when we know you just existing, you're not going to be invited no more. We don't want nobody just taking up air, using the stuff that we bring around. Contribute in some way or form. I don't care if you came there to fucking sit up the tables and chairs. Do something. But you gotta keep the men that are around you, your homeboys, especially if you're in a relationship with these types of men. That's really like, listen, a man that's masculine, if you dated too many, fuck it, I'm gonna say it. If you dated too many men that we consider wounded, you know, the ones you had to nurture and build up, what the fuck we want to deal with that shit for? That means you haven't learned how to be in a healthy environment, a how can you say it, within a
Actually,
element that you can feel proud of. One of the things I used to ask people is like, yo, have you ever felt proud in your relationships? Do you know the type of answers I have gotten in my life where people can't even answer? Have they ever felt proud being in a relationship? People just be there for the existence of the relationship, just to say they're in a relationship. See, a person who has that purpose driven, that type of man, you know you feel proud. Man, he's gonna go out there and make some shit happen. Listen, listen, you definitely are a masculine man if you fail and you kept getting back up. It's when you fail and you let life defeat you, you're losing your purpose, your energy, the things that should have been poured to you in the early age. This is why I always say, listen, who around you pours into you when you go through things. This is important. How you feed your mind is one of the most important things. Like sometimes I don't want to talk to people who be like, hey, listen, we all go through things. Yeah, we go through things. Now tell that man how to get out of those things. Like that doesn't help. We go through. Okay, how do you get out of it though? What is the responses that you like? These types of stuff that really trigger me on a basis because I'd be like, listen, there's so much lack in masculinity when these men actually come around. We're villainized. I'm gonna be honest, we villainized.
so
Being truthful, you're a
yeah,
villain.
absolutely.
The other day I said to myself, listen, it's so crazy how I wanted to be a hero as a kid, but then I learned how to be and then all of a sudden I loved how to be a villain, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you learn some of the villains, you learn they were very truthful. They were very honest. They were saying the things that were uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, switching from a hero to villain, I'd be cool with it because that's just a part of like who I am. I'm not gonna hold back. And I remember having a discussion with a younger lady before. I have a daughter, and I said, look, in front of her mother, I said, would you rather me give you the guidance and answers you want as my daughter, or would you rather me give you guidance and answers as just another man in front of you? Because I can either be truthful with you, or I can lie in front of you, which would make you feel good. Which one do you want?
Mm-hmm.
So as a masculine, if you're gonna pretend yourself as a masculine man, you know you're gonna choose truth out of people feeling good all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know you have to do it. If you really say you're purpose driven, you want to be able to put people on a different playing field, mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever type of level. You understand you gotta sit them down and have truth with them. I talked about it before with X. There was a time we were literally sitting. It was a younger woman. She was 16, and it's like eight of us and some elders and stuff. I'm the only man at the table. So as the older women are talking, I'm translating to her everything that's happening. Like one of the statements a woman made, she was like, "Yeah, you know, I used to have a homie lover friend. If y'all know that's R. Kelly." I said, and I looked to her and I said, "That means friends with benefits." I'm
Mm.
translating to her the things she's hearing so she understands what
Mm-hmm.
it really means. And they were talking about, yeah, you know, I went from a homie lover friend, but I wanted to push more to a relationship. I said, listen, if you ever go down that route, understand some men will never take you out of that perception. Very few. If I can get everything out of you without putting a title on you or knowing I have to move further that relationship, you're gonna stay in that zone because I know I can still have sex with you. I'm just giving her the real. But
Mm-hmm.
that's why I said, how honest can you be with people to make sure they make the sound decisions when you reveal the truth to them? But that's it on this little part right now. Like I
Cool.
said, males
Cool.
exist, masculine men
Cool.
have
I'm,
purpose. Never
I'm
forget that. Never
putting
forget that.
that's gonna be a clip coming to your social media feeds. That's gonna be a clip. So let's do this. A man that's a man. You have when we introduce the episodes, Juice says, well, we have comfortable and uncomfortable conversations. More masculine you become, the uncomfortable conversations become the conversations that have to be had. No matter how you have them. Sometimes you gotta pull people to the side and force them and say, "Look, we gotta talk." Sometimes you gotta do that more than one time just to have a conversation. So masculinity is based on not just imposing your will, but maybe seeking some form of clarity. Even if the clarity is not understood, it's also put out that this is where I stand, this is where I come from. So even if the clarity doesn't connect to you, I know as a man, I put it out there. I reached out. I did my part. You know what I'm saying? I had the uncomfortable conversation. That's masculine. What is the most uncomfortable thing you can do responsibly that can bring you the biggest benefactor, biggest benefactor? Um, so now this goes back to the uncomfortable conversations. So the masculine approach is what needs to happen, and based on, I ain't gonna say how it's taken because sometimes that can be negative because some men can just do the most, but you want to be effective in your approach, right? And you also want to stand on quote unquote business. So uncomfortable conversations come about because it's not a personal gain based on the ego of that man, but it's based on what can be produced from this conversation, right? And this goes back to the lowest levels or the highest levels. Um, Sometimes the importance of influencing somebody else is very masculine, even if it's uncomfortable. Um, that person can put themselves in even physical danger just to possibly um, implement a thought in somebody else,
Mm.
which would be the greatest speakers that are loved on a masculine level will sometimes be the most charismatic people. They had a flavor, they had a sauce, how they spoke to people, it just shook them up. You think about Barack Obama, Martin Luther King, all these people, they just had that approach that, you know, everybody attached to. And then you have people like Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad, Farrakhan, that had the opposite approach, right? The energy and the intent was the same, but the approach was different.
Mm.
So as a man, your approach shouldn't be too left or too right. It shouldn't be too charismatic because that could be too sweet to some people. You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be too hardcore because that could be too rough for people to attach to it. So personally, I try to align myself in the middle. You know what I'm saying? What's the pros and the cons of this conversation? How can this approach rub some people? And I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes I'm so into my personal energy and my temper, my ego, that I don't care how people take my energy. I don't care.
Mm.
When I talk about politics, sometimes I don't care. You look, I got facts. You want to talk? Let's talk. You know what I'm saying? I put on my black shoes. Sometimes I put on my white shoes and I soften it up a little bit. But we cannot produce a energy around masculinity to where the only thing we know is that it's charismatic, it's diplomatic, it's soft. Because now you, let's just say you personally may have mastered something and you got your approach down pat, but other people that come behind you may not know that you mastered that approach. So now they see it as softness. So now they know, oh, okay, bet if I want to reach the masses, I'm gonna come soft. And I think that's where we at with the whole masculine versus male approach. So let's take it to relationships. Even if I'm dealing with a woman or just having a conversation, I ask these type of questions. Do you have men around you, or do you have masculine approaches towards these type of conversations that we're having? You know what I'm saying? And sometimes they can say it's masculine based on what they gauge as masculine or not.
Key.
That's up to a debate. So I would simply say this, and it goes back to the uncomfort. If I'm having a real debate with somebody, I'm not too far in my emotions, but I'm tapped into resources, knowledge, information. Somewhere in my brain, I want to take that opposing force. I want to take them to deep waters. I want to gradually take you into a place in this water of the conversation that you can't swim. And as my masculine approach, that's how I take conversations. I don't just take everybody into the same space of deep water, because my charisma, it keeps me balanced to understand, okay, who am I talking to? Who am I dealing with? But eventually I have to drag you into water, because if I never question your ability to think as a masculine male, I've never done my job. Because at the end of the day, I'm supposed to spark something within you, whether you realize it or not. You know what I'm saying? So now in 2025, I have to do it in an aspect to where I don't personally offend you, to where it's like, fuck you. So it's a thin line, it's a balance, it's cool, but at the end of the day, when we talk about a man and his purpose, my purpose is not necessarily to get you to think how I think, because how I think is me. I'm still an individual, you know what I'm saying? I still may reach levels of intellect that you may not cross, because I don't know what's your journey. However, I want to make you think. And even if I trigger you to think and you still don't equate to my end result of the conversation or knowledge or information, that's cool too. But as a masculine male, it's like, okay, bet I played my role. So I feel like as masculine men, sometimes you just have to learn what is your role in people's lives. You know, you're not always the savior. You're not always, you like, when we study the story of Jesus Christ went around and he healed people. He died at the age of 33, so that was a young male that lived, but he cured a lot of people around him. You may not live to that exact type of energy at 33 years old. You know what I'm saying? Even on a lower level, we look at somebody like Tupac. Tupac died at 25. At 25, he still got a strong hold on hip hop. That's cool too. You know what I'm saying? So if we shift narratives around what era people lived in and what was their role, and were they a rapper, were they a philosopher, you know, you have your Shakespeare's, you have all these different type of people that put it down in their era. It's all about, to me, your impact is based on how do you impact the next person. And it's not to get them to agree with you, but did you open up something new within their mind? That's masculine to me. You know what I'm saying? Emotional attachments to that, which would be feminine, is ego wise, am I right? I don't want to be right all the time. I just want to trigger.
Say that again, brother. I don't want to be.
I just want to trigger you to think, and I think that's the most masculine approach that I could take towards these type of conversations. Like, I don't care if you understand where I'm coming from. That's cool. You might got to go through knowledge and research or what have you, but I just want to be able to make you think. And that's the masculine approach and having uncomfortable conversations. Plant seeds and let them seeds do what they do. You can't control the weather. You can't control how the amount of soil somebody put on that plant, how they water it, the fertilizer. You can't control none of that. The only thing you can do as a masculine male is plant your seeds, do your job. And this attaches back to your purpose. You go to sleep, you wake up every morning knowing that you're fully fulfilled or you're not. Did you accomplish everything you want to accomplish or not during that day in that 24-hour period? As a masculine male, just focus on you and that aspect and just plant your seeds, you know? You got
Man, one thing he said, I'm real, man. Like, listen, when I'm always right, I eventually get turned off. I get tired. I don't want to deal with. I don't want to deal with people no more. Because it's like you should get to a point where when a person is always telling you something that is right, it shows up in your face today, yesterday, the next day, in the next week when it happens, it becomes bothersome because then it registers in the person's mind. This person will never learn. And once you start having that type of energy towards an individual, they start to pull back and realize their wisdom, their knowledge, their essence is not appreciated. You don't want people to pull back. I'm gonna give up. Let's say I give up. I'm gonna give y'all some personal things, man. I just want y'all to listen to the type of scenarios I've been in through and why I believe it's problematic that people will still defend people who are clearly wrong. So, start with one of the scenarios. I told X about this. I said, "Hey, listen, man. There was this one time, brother. Um, I was how do you say this? I was visiting my lady, and at that time, she stayed with family and whatnot, and there was kids there. And after a period of time of visiting, you build up a relationship with the kids, and the kids were, grew attached to me. One day, the father called, and he was like, and I heard him. And as I'm walking through the door, the child was too excited. He was like, "Oh man, Jonathan's here! Oh my God, let's go!" He's excited that I came in. And I said, "Hey, who you talking to?" He said, "My dad." I said, "Listen, anytime you're on the phone with your father, I need you to understand you should never have more excitement for another man that's not your father." And I'm instilling things in him. I said those type of things will affect your father mostly, even when he's not in your presence or you think it doesn't happen. I said, I understand you're young, but what I'm saying, I need you to be mindful of. It might not register to you now, but trust me, everything we do has an effect on us. So he hears everything I said. In the midst of that, we start playing tic tac toe, and the sons were FaceTime, and the son is drawing the tic tac toe lines for us, and we're just playing tic tac. We're talking one on one. In the midst of that, about the next day or the day after that, all of a sudden I get this message from his mother, like, "Hey, I just want to let you know his father did feel some type of way of you being around there. Hey, listen, I want to say this right now for any man. There's only two options you get. If you're not, this is two options you have. You don't want any man having influence over your child. You either get your ass in that house or you get full custody of your child. That's your only option. Otherwise, every man that comes around will have influence over your child. There's nothing you can do about it. But what bothered me the most out of it is that you heard me say to your own child, don't have more excitement for another man when you're in your father's presence.
Mhm.
It will do something to you. Cool. Let's move down the line. I said, you know what? He's out of state. He'll come in state. We'll sit down. We'll have lunch. My thing is where I'm from, we have sit downs. Sit downs is translation for lunch. Lunch is translation for sit downs. This means we're gonna get to know one another, right? So the Miss Father comes down. We're having a conversation, and in the midst of it, I said, "Hey, give my number. Let's have lunch because we're in the atmosphere. There's other family members around. I'm ready for this one-on-one conversation. If you got a certain type of way the way you feel about certain shit." So what bothered me the most was after we exchanged numbers, the man is looking to sell me product. We'll just say that, sell me product. And I was just so disgusted by it because I was like, homie, your main message was you were concerned about your kids, but you turn around and try to sell me product. I said, this shit had nothing to do about the kids. It was just really like that. That was a beta move to me. I ain't gonna lie to you. That was really feminine. I was like, that's more of a control thing with the woman. You ladies, you know when you have a situation with a man and you're moving on, you're prospering, and he's like, we got kids together. Like, how you gonna bring another man around? But then you realize it's really nothing to do with you. It's really control aspect. And when it happened, I lost all motherfucking respect because I realized you tried to weaponize your kid in that situation. It had nothing to do with who I was. So down the line, when that woman I was, dating at the time, you feel, she's like, yeah, I'm about to go to the airport and pick up somebody. And then when she mentioned the person's name, I said, I would have told you fucking no. Don't ever pick that man up. Well, I didn't think you had a problem with it. This is why we say, like, when people don't consult with their partners, you don't know what's going on. But you make moves based on what you feel and not what you don't know. That's problematic. So when I explained to this person what happened, they were like, "Oh, I didn't know that happened." But at the same time, I said, "Look, this is my problem when I explain things to you. Every time I ever went to your people house, I have shown nothing but the utmost respect. I said, before I bought your aunt a Christmas present, I called her husband and asked, hey, listen, tell me right now the things that are acceptable and unacceptable for me to get your wife. And anytime I came to when I needed to get information about the husband, I called the wife to get the information. Even if it's just men, it's still a certain principle, guidelines, and respect that I've always done in any of my relationships. So I said, do you see my check-in? I make sure I don't offend nobody. I make sure I don't disrespect nobody. I said, these are things that you have to have when you move throughout life. So even after I explained how I do all these check-ins, how I maneuver, how I ask everybody in the house to do, I said my problem was he tried to leverage the kids. Then the reply I got, it made me it ain't gonna lie, it pissed me off. It was more so, well, maybe he wasn't trained to know that type of stuff. And I was just like, what the fuck? I was like, this is why y'all don't have masculine men around y'all. Y'all just have male role models. And then y'all didn't even probably have them around y'all. It's okay for a man to be in his 30s, 50s, 60s, 70s and still not know how to fucking move. And you dismiss it as maybe he wasn't trained that way. Maybe he didn't know. Well, things have y'all coddle men so much that men hasn't even stepped in their masculinity.
Mm.
Y'all do understand you could prevent somebody from growing from coddling and pandering them so much. Y'all don't call a spade a spade. Y'all just be like, maybe that spade will, eventually become a ace or a king or, joker. What? Yeah, the things that y'all do is the preventative measures that keep people from growing.
Mm.
And every time something happens, like this person, like I said, same person talking about was, hey, they're not doing so well in their life. I was like, whose fucking fault is that? Why do y'all keep trying to slap band-aids on people who wound themselves and not try to get out of these situations?
Mm.
So me explaining this story was for me to label out the things that you can tell people who are move a certain way and why they move a certain way, why things are in place, because it makes natural sense. You don't go through a discernment of not knowing, but when you don't have a partner that understands certain things, they could compromise your own relationship and cause jeopardy. This is why you have to always put somebody masculine in front of the men you're dating, vetting, or a relationship, and let them process. That's why I said before X, I said I don't respect no man who tells their woman, who tells their daughter, hey, listen, as long as he makes you happy, I don't want to talk to you because I know you didn't do shit. No man is literally gonna take his foot off the gas and just tell the daughter's boyfriend, as long as he makes you happy. That sounds ridiculous. You didn't do much, bro.
Okay. Um, uncomfortable. So, a man approach is based on having the most uncomfortable conversations, especially with females. So, okay, cool. You have to be able to give the most logical predictions on any type of situation as a man. And it has to be all logical, no emotions attached to it. Right. So logically, you do the mathematics. You're the mathematician. You're the scientist in the equation. You do all logic, all numbers, and then that's what you give. And if you want to give your personal emotions to it, then you do that later. But you don't succumb to that. So we had conversations where we talked about like Barack Obama, Steve Harvey, all these Denzel Washington, older men that are married in the black community, and they was like, okay, I listen, I shut up. I don't overstep. I let her do what she do. So to a younger generation of men that want to actually be men, even if they're not there yet, they equate to submissiveness as being powerful. So now that female that's in that particular time period, she knows that's not the norm. They may that's might would give her a husband or a man in a relationship to where she's comfortable with it, but it's not challenging enough for her. You know what I'm saying? So it's like your female woman or women that's dating will pick a submissive man just to have a man to lock him down, but needless to say, they step outside of that, right? When it comes to pleasures, whether it's sexual, uh, powerful domination or whatever, that's what tends to happen. And this is how you go back to the whole uh, YN phenomena or the aggressive male approach. And this is where some men disassociate money and wealth and status from just masculine energy, raw, even if it's sexual, right? So going back to the topic, as a man, you have to be comfortable being in uncomfortable situations when it comes to your family and people that count on you. Your influence is it should be based on we have to put a standard on masculinity to where you actually implement knowledge and information. So to be a man and to be a leader, it's not because you have a let's do this. It's not because you have a penis or a phallus or a dick. It's because you actually have discipline, knowledge, and information. And this opens up a whole world for you to have influence over the people that come underneath you. But if you don't do the actual knowledge and information into these certain criterias or areas of life, the women, the children, and everybody that should come beneath you are always going to question you because they see loopholes in your knowledge and your wisdom and your leadership. So if you truly want to be an effective leader as a man, masculine, you should always dedicate your time to being the best version of yourself, right? So a man doesn't necessarily become a man until he has people that he has to provide for on any type of level, financially, energetically, what have you. But within that process, he has to face himself. Yourself is your biggest adversary as a man. What's your lowest nature? What is your highest nature? Who are you? Can you look into the mirror? Can you look into your own eyes and know who you are? What do you have to tackle and accomplish within yourself? And then that rhetoric and that energy is what you spread amongst the people that follow you. Because if you're a man and you can constantly work on self, even when it's uncomfortable, it's nothing to you to have that same energy to the people that follow you, which can
Mm-hmm.
be your children, your woman, your women, whatever, however you rocking, your friendships, your relationships, whatever. It always trickles down. So as a masculine man always find faults within self. And these are the conversations I have with men. Okay, bet. This is your situation. This is what you have a grievance with. That's cool. As a man, do you find a role where you have at fault. That's the uncomfortable conversation. And if you can find that role, now you can build on that energy. And you know what I'm saying, people will attach to that. It's kind of like as a man, if you can heal self, the people that follow you can attach to that energy because they see you're actually working on self. You can't be a man, quote unquote, that's masculine and you're not effective in your energy. If people don't see consistent growth within your life, they're not gonna follow you. The growth could be physically attached to things that don't matter, cars, status, jewelry, whatever. It could be attached to so many different things. Sometimes when it comes to the religious aspects, it's not based on wealth. It's just based on um, maybe how that person tunes in or taps into the religion. You know what I'm saying? It could be like, okay, bet they speaking in tongues now. It could be like, bet, okay, they're reciting Bible verses, whatever have you. It's different standards on whatever type of world you're in as a man, but you have to show growth and improvement on whatever it is that you're attached to. So your children, your women, your woman, whatever, they will judge your masculinity based on what you submit to as a man. And this will align how people submit to you as a man because those people will see what you follow. And this goes back to the religious conversation where we say the man is the head, uh, the woman is beneath the man, and
God,
then the children.
man, woman, child. Nah.
This is how it goes into the whole family synopsis. So yeah, you just have to find different things that align with who you are as a man. Know who you are, and the ability to adapt is key. When I started my whole journey as like trying to find myself, I went through different channels. I went through Bible to Quran, Rastafari. I had a heavy reggae Bob Marley phase. I tapped into the whole Dr. Sabi thing. I tapped into Hidden Colors. I tapped into so many different trains of thought to where, as a man, I had to find out what actually benefited me the most and how do I align with that. And then it opened up a different conversation because sometimes I thought I was being so masculine, but I was being chaotic because I was lost in some of my approaches. And sometimes I was overly aggressive on things that I shouldn't have been. You know what I'm saying? And I couldn't connect with people that was following me, quote unquote, because I was just way too aggressive and I didn't have the knowledge and the information to fully tap into that. Earlier, we talked about politics. If you want to have political conversations, well, you have to do your research. That can be uncomfortable, but if you dig and dig and dig and dig into your research, you will see where you align that perfectly. If not, then you have all what's going on now. To where if you can get a civilization, this will be my last point. If you can get a civilization or a massive group of people to argue against their own best benefit emotionally, I think you conquered that group of people. And that would e- e- pretty much be like the conversation that there aren't enough masculine men in that civilization because you wouldn't be able to conquer that civilization mentally if men would actually think because you're supposed to be the most logical. So being uncomfortable as a man, you have to always find a solution to problems as they
Yeah.
arise. And if you come from a certain race or group or whatever, if in totality, the families that come from that culture, if we don't prosper and we don't compete at the highest level, it's a problem with the masculine men on that level. We talk about relationships and we can all agree that like females are out of control right now. And that's across the table, you know. But that would mean that the men are out of control too, because who's leading the females? Maybe men aren't leading. Maybe females aren't submissive enough to follow the men. But if all of that's within the same sentence, eventually eventually the men have tapped into a feminine aspect of themselves to where they can't lead because they aren't furthering the knowledge enough to lead. That's not an oxymoron. As a man, going back to the uncomfortable conversations, you always develop yourself even when it's uncomfortable. If you come to a blockage in your knowledge or a blockage in your energy, that's a domino effect to everybody that follows you, men, women, children, whatever. We go back to a particular time period, as I said in previous podcasts, where we had like the movie Oppenheimer, whatever, where they built the first atomic bomb. They gathered all the intelligent thinkers of that time period and they came up with that equation.
Thinking tank.
Um, so if we advance throughout time, we have technology which advances, but human thought it hasn't advanced past a particular level. Now we have more advancements in tech and less advancements in thought, which means that masculine men aren't advancing at the same pace. Now, I'll close off there. I want to try again.
Man, that's right there. On the subject, I'm pretty much good over it.
Mhm.
Like I said, our next upcoming topic won't be well. It's in the chamber. It's gonna be a man of principles. I'm telling y'all right now, that's gonna be crazy. But y'all be on the lookout for that one. Did you have anything else you want to discuss over the subject?
Mm-hmm. Nah, man, who gonna win the Super Bowl, man?
Oh man, I don't even watch sports, bro. I don't even know who's playing. All I know it's Kendrick Lamar's performance. Bro, I've been listening, y'all. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I haven't paid attention to sports since probably 2015, 2014. Like when I was deep in sports, I write the names down on who was drafted and what team this and that. I haven't, man. I don't even know what's going on.
All right, I
I
asked you
just
another question.
that's it,
I
man.
asked you another question.
You know what I'm saying? Hey,
Um,
listen, don't do that, bro. Don't do what I say, bro.
it's not
Hey,
37.
bro, I asked
We
you.
started at late. So let's do this. I asked you a question. Um, um, what makes you comfortable as a masculine man, quote unquote, being a villain in certain situations, even if it's truthful?
Man, knowing that you have the knowledge, bro.
Mhm.
I think the knowledge, like I said, knowledge, wisdom, experience, and knowing you can come up with the solutions, that is powerful, bro. I think men need to tap into that energy. Knowing you're a man that can come up with solutions and get through situations, that is powerful. Like you can't get knocked off your chair. You can't get knocked off your position because you know how to get back to it. You know how to sustain yourself. I always say like to me, I believe like a lot of masculine men or just men on a purpose have a certain desire to always stay on top. And when you have a desire to stay on top, that means you're always constantly seeking things to better yourself and you're also looking to maintain what you have and you'll fight anybody for the position you have. That's a big key factor. You want to be able to be solution oriented, resourceful, impactful, effective. You want morals and principles intact to your name. It's certain things that you have as an individual, as a man, when you're masculine, that nobody can just knock you off. And I think that's a lot of things we got to put into the picture. If a person doesn't know what they're doing, they always have to search for it. But if a person knows what they're doing, they can search within themselves to know how to understand what to do.
Okay, okay,
What I
okay.
mean by that, like with search within yourself, is if you had the teachings and the knowledge and the wisdom, there's things that repeat in your brain. The minute it happens, you know how to maneuver. You say, okay, grandpa taught me that. Oh, I remember when the homie taught me that. Okay, Soxy said, hey, it's gonna go up after that. The answers are already within you mentally. They're already in you with mentally. But like I said, if you need to pull from your multitude of counselors, the individuals you keep around you to keep you up, you'll do so as well.
Mm. Okay, cool.
Wait, let me rephrase that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me rephrase that. I said, you don't know what you're doing, you search for it. Let me take that back. If you don't know what you're doing, you'll wait for people to bring it to you. That's the difference. Like I notice a lot of people who don't know what they're doing, they're waiting for people to bring them the answers
Mm,
versus searching for it. Let's be honest. Let me take that back. Now I
mm,
said that because I was like, what I kind of saying was kind of childish. But yes, if my, definitely in my eyes, if you don't know what you're doing, you're most people wait for people to bring them the
mm,
answers versus them seeking it. Two different ball games.
mm. Okay, another question. I'm just asking
Mm.
questions right now. As a masculine man, when we talked about men being liked and hated or what have you, um, what happened throughout time to where men would actually prefer to be loved versus hated, even if that's bias, right? If a man sometimes is loved, we can also equate that to he never told the truth. If he's hated, he told a lot of truth, and he probably don't get the love that the other men get throughout time. But let's just say he's hated by the majority, but it's smaller groups of people throughout the world that attach to that message, and they wake up, they live throughout their purpose, and it goes back to a man being attached to his purpose.
Mm.
Do you choose overall love or hate, or do you just align with who are you meant to be within this lifetime? Do you spill out your truth? You don't care how it affect people. You can modify it or not, but what made the majority of men now so soft to where people are afraid of being hated? And even as a man, quote unquote, you can be hated regardless
Yeah,
whether you
we
play the
hated just
political
being a
role or
man.
not. So, what the happy wife, happy life, the why does happiness for a man now look like you just got to be quiet in the corner? Like, what happened? If you can answer that.
Um, the uh, the breakdown of the man. I'll say that you have cancel culture, feminization that came into the picture. You have a lot of things that came into the picture. But see, even then, some men still kept their masculinity up. I think when it started becoming more of a movement type, and what I mean is, you'll have people that be like, "Hey, listen, I know you got a good man, but my man hits me, and we need to stand against the men." Hey, but you just said I had a good man, but girl, I'm a woman, you're a woman. We need to stay aligned. So you got messages that get said back and forth,
Hmm.
and some people never experience it, but will still align with it. And I never understood that. Like, hey, that's okay. That's their life, but that's not your life. But you'll get behind it and rally, and then you'll realize once you got behind it, you didn't live it. Like we always talk about traumas. Like there's traumas that people have that people never had a traumatic experience. They just realize it happened, and people are like, oh, that's a trauma. Then there's people that had traumas like, well, damn, if you had that trauma, why aren't you that upset? Why aren't you that mad? Well, everybody doesn't react the same. So in society, what I learned is, like I said, you be villainized for telling the truth, but at the same time, if you put some sugar and shit together, people eat it. So I mean, at the same time, listen, it's like taking medicine in the can, medicine in the jar, or hey, listen, I done cooked up this garlic. I put beets in there. I got a little bit of carrots. It's gonna brew. It's gonna stink, but if you drink it, you'll be good. Listen, let me get that in the can because now you're understanding the truth behind some of the mixtures, how it might make you feel once you take it, versus something that doesn't have an emotional thing attached to it. It's easier to do. Like I said, you have to stand on something in this world, man. And once you realize what you want to stand on, that's going to be the ultimate factor on how you move. Like I tell you right now, I tell you all the time, I got friends in politics, I got friends as executive positions, I got friends as directors. They would literally say, I fucking hate I have to pander to people's feelings and not just get the shit done. This is why some of the factors why people actually want to go into the business, not necessarily to be a tyrant, a dictator. They just like to have the authority, understanding. Listen, you work for my company, we're going to get it done. I don't want to have to pander to your feelings. I don't want to do certain things. But guess what? I'll put people in positions who can translate for me to make it feel good for you. But if you step into this think and tank, the Lions Den or or I would call it a war room, it's about to get real in there. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing that you want to be able to do is understand once you have the like I said, the war room is where it gets raw. Cool. You still want to have the war room mindset. And like I said, you might need somebody who can translate everything that happened in the war room out to reality. But don't sugar and shit it. You just gotta do it. I think there's no way to justify getting certain things across. That's why I say there's a reason why people appeal to Malcolm versus people who appeal to Martin.
Mm-hmm.
Big difference. Big difference in the message. And like I said, even as they got older and wiser and more experienced, one still stayed the same and start opening himself up a little bit more. And one realized, like, damn, I did all this. I think I kind of fucked up. So you want to like, because this is the thing. Okay, last thing I'll say about this. When you train your kids, understand my favorite thing about this, I'm going through my first experience. Like I said, I only got one child. My favorite thing is observing about being this age is when somebody raises their kid, they literally pull back later on and be like, you know what? I did fuck up. I didn't do what I was doing. I used to let them get away with it. I didn't tell them the truth. I didn't do certain things. The truth comes out of the things they should have put in place versus what they never put in place. So one thing I said to somebody today, time is undefeated. It's gonna reveal the truth. You want it now, or you want it later.
Mm, masculine equate time to reality. That's masculinity. For y'all that didn't
Give
know,
it some
for you
time.
that
That's all
didn't
I can
know,
tell you. Give
a
it some time. Watch
man
what
is
happens.
not a man because you stand on what you stand on. You're a man because you always you bring time to the
Yes.
table. You see how
Just bring time.
effective does it work.
Everything happens within time. Just let it
And if
proceed.
you're thinking, damn, I need another life to do this shit, okay, you
Mm.
probably wasn't as masculine as you should have been in this one. I bet. I got questions for you, bro. I got two questions.
All right, go ahead.
Does a woman's freedom compromise a man's masculinity?
It does. The reason why I say a compromise is because, like I said, masculinity has always came with structure, discipline, rules in place, boundaries. If you tell me you're masculine, your woman does whatever, we'll laugh at you. That doesn't make sense. It will never make sense to people of who put themselves into certain positions. Now, this is the thing that you will somebody will say, well, that's not true. I see all the time that so and so lets this woman do whatever. I learned some people talk publicly some way and behind closed doors be another way. So I always remember that at the same time. And once a man has never truly had the discipline or understand female nature or understand their seduction into play, he can always be manipulated anytime. I'm watching things over some of the most powerful men in sports, business and stuff, and I'm like, yo, how are y'all losing out to these women all the time? And then they talk about the women's past, how they were able to manipulate, how they was able to soothe people over. And I said, oh, these are usually men that are inexperienced, or they let their money do everything for them. So because you use money as as a compliance or as a how do you say
You're
a
leading
care
with the
package
wallet.
as a care package, you're not really respected because all a woman knows is all she got to do is act up to get what she wants, and then that's you. Just like what they always say, like, listen, daddy punished me, but after he punished me, he took me to the store to go get some ice cream. Do you understand? There's a treatment in place even as they get older that that's the thing they look for. Well, every time there's something wrong, my daddy punched me, but he rewarded me at the same time. So when your man saying, "Hey, look, baby, hey, look, love, you're out of place and out of order, and we need to correct that," it's okay. Well, are we still gonna go out? Are we still gonna do something? No, this is a moment for you to sit and reflect and learn to correct your behavior. And when you can't correct your behavior, things are chaotic. And I'll say this for the next question. Men, if you have to get peace by choosing chaos, do so. I said it before, told a lady before. I said, listen, last year I did everything in my power to make sure you and I could get on the court. I talked to you the way you wanted to be taught. I did certain things, but I also did things in my nature. I learned that doesn't work. So when you're out of line now, I'm going to choose chaos to talk to you. And if chaos gets you in line, so be it. Somebody be like, well, that sounds a little feminine. No, if chaos is what they're used to, then chaos is what they train for in order to have peace. See, people forget wars are chaotic, but at the end, whoever submits is the winner. Whoever loses is the winner. You got to battle the way you have to battle at times if conversations can't be had before the battle or war is needed. What I used to say before wars, hey, listen, let's have a sit down talk at noon, come over, sit down at my house, 6 o'clock, let's have dinner, let's talk, let's see if we come to peace before we have to go to war. We just said about Donald Trump today with the tariffs. Oh no, hey, listen. Hey bro, we didn't think you was gonna stand on business, dog. I got you.
Yep.
I'm gonna send 10,000 of my people over there. I'm gonna send 10, and people up north, they're gonna send 10,000 people too. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Let's work it out. We work it out. You ain't gotta hit it with the tariffs. Yeah, baby. That's what you want to do, bro. I'm sorry. Sometimes negotiations calls for hard tactics.
I've been too political. My last checkout. I'll piggyback off of it. Men are natural warriors, but we naturally also seek peace.
Mm-hmm.
And even in the midst of chaos and conflict and giving chaos back in chaotic situations, a man still wants peace. So at the end of the day, a man is always going to feel at home where he's validated based on whatever principles or morals he stand on. So if that man is actually a man that does knowledge and research into making himself the best version of himself, his counterparts, his women, his children, his woman, his family members, whoever relies on him for guidance and masculine energy, he's always going to navigate towards the peace, right? Wherever there's always friction, he would eventually give the same amount of friction or multiply it or pull away. The more masculine and the older you get throughout time, you're going to navigate towards peace, whatever that looks like, right? So the masculine approach should be based on where is there reciprocity on your energy. A man who has unconditional love that cannot be controlled is a man that dies early. It's a man that never lives throughout his full purpose and full journey because he lives and dies for the people that he's loving and protecting. Now, when we talk about kings and rulers and emperors, they were the people that got the most out of their personal relationships. And this took it on another notch or level to where the world was able to appreciate them. So all the men that gave unconditional love, that didn't have standards and boundaries, they died early. Strokes, cancer, what you call it, stepchildren out the ass, whatever. They gave and never got nothing back, so they went out early. They checked out. They demised. The more masculine man should be so refined in his knowledge and wisdom and information to where you have value amongst yourself. When we deal with women and they like, I got self-worth, I got self-value. As a man, sexually, do you diminish your personal value and worth because she controls access to sex to where now you play by her rules to where women are always thinking what one man won't do, another one will? Or do you take yourself out that equation and all the people that deal with you understand that this is what he provides and I accept it and I appreciate it and I give back to that? That's the man that lives a long life. That's the man that fights wars and becomes successful. Not the guy that's okay. I'm gonna just shut up and be quiet and keep giving. No. We're coming into a new era of men. The modern man is changing. You know what I'm saying? Even though testosterone is decreasing, you know what I'm saying, on a worldwide scale, production levels are decreasing. Some type of way we're stepping into a new era to where men are beginning to ask questions. So sex shouldn't, if a woman knows she can control you through sex or her sexual energy, you're not necessarily being a man. You have the savagery of a man, the sexual nature, but you don't have nothing else attached to it, right? You want to be a Homo sapien, or you want to be a Neanderthal. You pick. You want to be an animal or savage, or you want to be a more perpendicular man, the man that stands upright. He walks. He has intellect, knowledge of self. So that's the man. That's what we say. Uh, what we say. Respected by many, loved by few. You know what I'm saying? We go to these type of different type of conversations. You want to be loved by the people that add value back to your life, and this is your longevity of your rulership as a king or a man or whatever. If everybody around you love you as a man, most likely you're doing something wrong somewhere. You know what
Ooh.
I'm saying? That's just how it works. So, needless to say, don't be controlled by sex as a man. Don't be controlled by your
Ever.
savagery. Don't be controlled even by money, because maybe other groups of men on the physical plane know that they got more money and leverage, so now they control you even as a man. And if they can control you, they can control your woman, and your children, and your family, and your lineage, because you have a source of control that can be tapped into. Your raw masculine approach is you like you're tapped into your purpose. When men say they know their purpose, I automatically question, what is your purpose? Is it attached to a dollar value or a title? And do you have more than one purpose? Because the further you get into your purpose, you find out there's more than one purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So we can have them kind of conversations. So look, men have to be men. Men have to go back to being like, I fuck with Kevin Samuels to a certain extent. But I respected the fact that he was so attached to his purpose, even though he demised early, that even if everybody hated him, he understood the role that he played into society,
Mm-hmm.
even if it was a bad guy. Because at that time, people needed a villain to take them
You
to a
need a
different
villain.
train of thought. So you just have to be interchangeable on your approach, know your purpose, and if you know your purpose, it's multiple purposes. And look, this ties back into the conversation of Trump, leaders, and everybody across the planet. Sometimes the longevity of your lineage, your country, the people that follow you is bigger than yourself, and that's masculine. If you live for yourself and you die for yourself, that's more so quote unquote feminine. And that's just the basis of the conversation. If you're gonna be a man, sometimes you have to stand on uncomfortable premises and thoughts, and stand on that. We'll check out. We ain't gonna drag it out too long.
All right, man. Go ahead and sign us off then.
Talking that Talk Official Podcast. Make sure you tap into the YouTube, the IG, follow us on TikTok. We stepping into the Patreon space. We're just gonna continue building the platform. We might go live multiple times a week, what have you. We're gonna continue to tap into these type of conversations, the comfortable and uncomfortable conversations, to give you your best version of yourselves. Make you think, make you grow, make you become better versions of who you are. Up top, we got No Ordinary Brother. I go by the name of King Exodus.